Yo, what is going on, guys? Inzem here, and I wanted to let you guys know that I am now a coach on Medify. And what that is it is basically a coaching service that will allow me to help you guys improve at the fastest way possible. I have a lot of lesson plans ranging from character-specific coaching to just going over the basics of the game all the way up until VOD review, so I'm pretty confident I can help any level of play. If you want to know more, I'll have the link to the Medify in the description, and hope you guys enjoy the video. Peace. Yo, what is going on YouTube? Inzem back at again with another video, and today we are actually going to be starting a new series that I think I'm going to call The Problem With, maybe Why a Character Sucks. Who knows, we'll figure out the name of the series down the road, but essentially I'm going to be going throughout the cast and showing the weaknesses and the downfalls of different characters. Hopefully we actually go around and get to the top tiers, because I noticed that a lot of people think that the top tiers and the best characters of the game, or just some characters in general, don't have any weaknesses, or their strengths are so absurd that the weaknesses don't matter. And while that is true for some characters, kinda, I don't think people realize how untrue that statement is most of the time. So today we're going to be starting with my favorite character based Vegeta, because why not, and let's get to it. So the first issue about this character is he actually doesn't really have a reliable anti-reflect. This has kind of been a known thing because, you know, his normals are pretty small, but some characters can do like their auto combo to anti-reflect. He can't. He has to do traditional key blast, which has its issues, and 5H, which again also has its issues. Doing 5H could be fine, but other characters don't have to go to the end of their chain to do it. So for an example, Cell. And it's actually funny because when I was looking and I was making the list, I noticed that Cell actually doesn't have any of the issues Vegeta has. He's actually the complete opposite, so he's a perfect character for this. Like, a lot of his things just naturally anti-reflect. He doesn't even have to really try to do it. And this is really good because he kind of sticks to you really well. You don't really have to think about doing it either. Like, even like post Spanish, you just smash L and it works. And you can even do 2M to triple anti-reflect. Or you can even do like 5 anti-reflects at once, like A. Like that all anti-reflected. Like he had to reflect like at least 4 or 5 times to get out of that. So yeah, not having a reliable anti-reflect it definitely hurts, because you have to be more aware about baiting reflect. You have to be like things like that. You have to if you get reflected, you have to react to getting reflected. So it's just I have to stop pressing buttons or things like that. And while he can do that, it's definitely a lot harder, and it puts a lot more user error and like variables that you have to deal with where other characters don't have to deal with it. So that's the first issue, right? The second issue, I already kind of said it already, but his normals are tiny, T-Rex normals. And this, especially in this version of the game, this actually really sucks, having like really small normals. Like his furthest normals is 5H, and his furthest normal doesn't go as far as like, yeah. So having small normals really sucks, because like, let's say you want to catch somebody landing, you really have to pull up on them. Oops, that is not the right button. You really have to like pull up on them to actually catch their landing, and it's so annoying. Oh, I have multiple recordings, don't I? There you go. Like you have to really pull up, and it can get kind of difficult because you have to put yourself at risk. Where other characters, let's take 21 for example, kind of just do it from back here, and you know, among other things, right? Like just kind of being scared in the mid-range. Again, the anti-reflect. Just having small normals does suck, and he definitely has T-Rex normals. I was gonna say Vegeta normals, but the other Vegeta's normals are definitely a lot better than his. So yeah. So this third issue that he has is actually one of the most important ones for him, and the one that sucks the most. And he does not have a reliable answer to Super Dash. For him to beat Super Dash consistently, he has to do it like the old reliable way, right? You either have to reflect it, if you want to punish it, 2H it, or if you're in the air, jab it. Jab it. One more time. Jab it. Thank you. And as you can see, because I messed it up twice, it's hard to do that consistently. But if you take a character like Cell, for example, he has a really easy, reliable way to consistently beat it, even in the air. Like, he doesn't really have to think about it. He just does it. Like, he has a frame 1 anti-air. I mean, he can time it as late as he wants on the ground, and in the air, like, even in these weird situations where, like, you know, they just do the random cross-up one, he can actually get this punish, which is not normal. And to net it, he gets really high reward from doing this. You see that you don't really even have to time it that well, and then they explode. So this also kind of plays into the fact that his neutral is very based around projectiles and key blasts and stuff, so it really incentivizes you to super dash. But he doesn't really have a strong option to beat the super dash, right? So while it is really strong that he forces you to want to super dash, you have to be, like, again, just like with the reflecting, extremely aware that they're going to do it to actually beat it. And you're going to notice that's like a running thing with this character, and that's just the way they designed him. But yeah, like, that is actually a huge weakness, that he can't just beat super dash easily. He has to, like, if you want to beat super dash, you have to really, like, know they're going to do it and look out for it. So yeah, the next issue that he has is something he's always had, and I don't think people realize it, is that they did update him a little bit, but he is not that strong against jumping opponents. That is actually his weakness. He has a really strong ground game, but he doesn't necessarily have easy ways to get people out the air. So for an example, somebody just doing this, it's kind of hard for him to, like, catch it, because he doesn't have a lot of things that reach. Like, this reaches, but this doesn't have a lot of blocks in, so it doesn't even bring him down to the ground. It just kind of freezes him in place for a split second, and that's about it. Like, they can jump. Like, if they're mashing jump, they could just jump and get in the air. Like, it doesn't bring him down to the ground. Like, this doesn't necessarily reach. This doesn't reach. This doesn't really reach. Like, he doesn't really have reliable ways to anti-air. Like, he can do it some ways, like doing something like this, but it's not nearly as easy or as simplified as, like, Cell just doing this, right? Or GT Goku doing this, and then he's just in, right? Like, he actually struggles with this. And even against jumping opponents who are, like, in this, like, airspace around him, he struggles to actually deal with this consistently, because again, you have 2H, but that's really it, and his 2H is kind of stubby, so it doesn't really go as far as you'd want it to go, so you have to be very careful in pressing it. It can easily miss. You can try to use 3S. It's not bad, but it's definitely not the most reliable anti-air, because it can still be super dash. So he is weak to jumping characters, kinda. So the next issue that he has, I actually had to turn on the damage value so you guys can see, and even though he is known for having pretty high corner damage, his mid-screen damage is extremely low, especially for this version of the game. A lot of characters kind of had, like, different balance and patches so that they can actually have high mid-screen damage, and he actually never received any of that. Actually, he received a mid-screen damage nerf, because they nerfed how much damage his Key Blast does. So I'll give you an example of basically the only two routes he can do mid-screen for the most part. This is his most optimal one, and that only did 33%, because that gives you the most corner carry. This does a little bit more damage, I believe, but you don't get as much corner carry, and it's still only 33%. So that's the most he's going to get. I think he barely even builds a bar when he's doing these routes, and it's just very hard to consistently two-touch with it. So because of this, you have to either rely on assists to get you to make up for that extra damage so you can two-touch, or you simply just don't two-touch. Like, you cannot two-touch off a, like, if I were to do a mid-screen route into another mid-screen combo, I'm pretty sure he cannot two-touch even with using an assist. And that's not good. Now, if you were to compare it to a character like Cell, for example, he would easily be able to do this. Let's have to walk out the corner. And you can see the huge difference in damage here. I almost killed only using 2 bars. So if I used an assist, it would have been a bar meter positive. So not having strong mid-screen damage is actually a huge weakness, because you are forced to either have extremely high execution routes to deal with it, or just accept the fact that you won't be a consistent two-toucher. Especially in this game, that's actually a really big issue. So yes, his mid-screen damage sucks. So now for arguably his biggest weakness as a character, and that is his lack of defensive options. I have Red Gogeta here on the other side of the screen because he is the complete opposite of that. He has a lot of defensive options to use, but for a point character, not having defensive options is already bad, because having strong defensive options as a point character is really, really nice to just have. But he doesn't really have anything at all. I could turn on the invincibility so you guys can see. He doesn't have a frame 4 reversal, nor does he have a DP, nor does he have something that gives him like a key blast invulnerability or assist invulnerability. He does have this one, EX Rocket Kick, which makes him completely invincible on frame 9. But frame 9 isn't that good. He doesn't have a reliable frame 4 or reversal, so that means his inability to escape pressure is really, really, really severe. You have to be very careful with him, because if your opponent does lock you down, stop reflecting for a second, you don't have like a reliable way to deal with these. Like if Vegeta does this, you can't really stop it. You can't really gamble with him outside of reflect. It's very hard for him to get your opponent off him, and just having no defensive option really does hinder him. But on the reverse side of things, Vegeta, he has a lot of defensive options. Like you try to frame trap him, he can DP you. So if you try to go for a mix up, get off him. He has a parry. I'm pretty sure this is leeway. Yes. And even like let's say post vanish, you have to be wary that he can do that. You have to be wary just him doing it in a block stream naturally. Even trying to super dash him in neutral. Like having strong defensive options like this is really, really important, and he has none of it. The only thing he has is a level 3 once he gets 3 bars. And this is extremely expensive. So I actually switched to my team on the left, but there's one important issue that I forgot to account for, and that is him being extremely projectile based in this game, which is not that good because a lot of characters can, you know, get rid of it. So if he wants to zone you, ooh, I did that bad. If he wants to zone you, he's in risk of dying, and there's a lot of characters who can do this to him. So you have to be careful, including him. Yeah, you just have to be pretty careful of like how you structure your pressure, because he can easily just kind of die for setting up his neutral structure. Right? And he gets hit with a high damage counter. And a lot of characters have key blast invulnerability, projectile counters, projectile invincible stuff, as you can see, so that definitely hurts. He used to not have this issue because not a lot of characters had tools like these, but they gave a lot of characters these tools, so he has to be very careful in neutral. The last issue of this character that not a lot of people take into consideration is his high execution barrier. So obviously you can definitely just be good enough and just never drop a combo, but that is extremely unrealistic. Every Vegeta I've known, including myself, knows what it's like to drop a combo in a very important situation, and it's the fact that his combos, while they are difficult to execute, they also don't do that much damage for how difficult they are. So I'll give you an example, right? Like I showed you guys his issue with the mid-screen combo, his mid-screen combos, but if you have the correct assists and the correct routings, you can actually fix this. An example. So right here I did 39% and I got the full screen corner carry and the good knockdown, so that's really, really good. You can two-touch consistently with this, but that combo is not easy. Like that combo is actually, there's a pretty high execution barrier to it, and as you can see it did 39%, right? But if you compare it to somebody like Cell, or actually let's just do a different character, let's do Vegeta. This combo is way easier and it did more damage. Same thing with Cell. An even easier combo. And did even more damage. So not only is this combos really hard to execute, especially in a high pressure situation. Like if you take this character offline and play him at an offline event, you'll probably notice that executing his combos gets a lot more difficult than it is in practice, just because there's just that added pressure to you. And he doesn't really do a lot of damage, as you can see. Like I spent an assist and I had to do a high execution combo to get less damage than Cell or Vegeta just doing ABC with no assist. And even in the corner, this is kind of the same case. Like yes, he does do a lot more damage in the corner, right there, almost 44%. That's really, really good. That's a lot more damage. Again, if you just take a character like Cell, and there's a lot of characters who also do this, them just doing ABC, a way easier combo, did even more damage. So his high execution barrier is really annoying. You can also see this with characters like Blue Goku. If you watch like any of Nitro gameplay, you'll notice that he sometimes drops his combos in tournament. It's really rough, and the fact that you are forced to actually do these combos, like you don't have to do these, you can just do the easy ABCs like this stuff, but you will not two-touch with this, and you need to two-touch. Like you have to be that optimal, so you're kind of forced to do those combos. So yeah, that's essentially all the issues with base Vegeta. Again, this doesn't necessarily make him a bad character. I'm just showing that all characters, excuse me, have their own set of weaknesses. Some have more than others, obviously, and some characters' issues talk more than the others, and they're more obvious. That's why we have a tier list. But yeah, these are his issues. I'm going to start the series off with him. Don't know who I'm going to do next. I'm thinking about doing Kid Buu next, but yeah. If you guys like this educational type of content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of the video. Peace.